This is reposted.
All right, Andrew, it is time to go into theory of relativity zone. Today's idea comes from Albert Einstein. If you can't explain it simply, you don't have to understand it well enough. I am so confident in today's quote, I'm going to do it blindfolded. I'm going to talk blindfolded today.
Okay.
Got
I'm
I'd love
guessing
to.
you don't know the theory of relativity well enough to explain it, but you have thoughts on this idea.
No, I actually don't have thoughts of theory of relativity. Here's what I say about Einstein's quote. My number one pet peeve in life is bad toasts at weddings. People getting up and grabbing the mic and meandering for like 10 minutes.
Oh,
It presumably is your best friend or someone you know really well. How do you not distill what you know about them in a 1 minute speech? It feels like we're missing the point of Albert Einstein's quote we talked today when we give wedding speeches. If you don't know it enough, then you don't know it.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think your example doesn't track because I think
What?
most people's biggest fear is speaking in front of large audiences, and most people don't know. They get nervous and they think that they have to talk for a long time. People get nervous when they know they're in front of a hot mic.
I completely agree with you. And people don't tell you to speak at their wedding the day before. You usually have a year, 6 months, whatever, to plan the 2 minute speech that you have to give. You write it out and you memorize it. I don't accept the fact that you get nervous. By the way, I really feel like this extrapolates to a business meeting, a friendship. If you can't break down what you're trying to say, then what you're saying isn't simple enough.
I think that's true, but I think you need to look at whatever the concept is or the idea and realize maybe I don't know it well enough to teach it and I should work at it more. But my approach to life recently, one of my friends was like, hey, can you install this closet system for me? Find it and install it. And I said, yes. And if she had asked me at that point to explain the process and how I was going to do all of it, I couldn't have done it. So there is something in trying something and learning it along the way. Also, I don't think this applies to the arts. Like if you can't explain acting, you don't understand it well enough. What do you think?
Yeah, art's kind of a hard thing to teach, right? Acting maybe so more than like a little bit easier than like painting,
Yeah.
but it's still an art. TED Talks seem to have this figured out, right?
Yes.
Because if you give a TED Talk, they screen you, right, and they only let you go 13 minutes, and they only let you give one idea. If you can't explain the theory of astrophysics
Right.
in 13 minutes with one idea, then they assume you can't do it. So back to the Einstein quote, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't know what you're talking about.
I think that you're trying to mix two things and being able to explain in front of a large audience, like, because I think people do understand the theory of relativity and could not do it in 10-minute TED Talk. I think it's a skill set of being able to concisely explain yourself and then also understanding it.
Well, I will say this, Andrew. As a father, I've had to sometimes give these rough and tumble speeches to my kids, and I'm going to stand on my soapbox and tell them about the meaning of life. And when I start to ramble, I realize I don't know what I'm talking about. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I should probably think about it before I give it to them.
Do you
And
consider yourself an expert in anything that you could concisely
yes,
explain? What?
yes, asking questions.
You're an expert in asking questions?
I
I
am
think
an
that I agree with you. Can you explain that? Because I think most people don't understand why that's a skill. Because most people think that they could interview people, but I think you're good at it. And I'm
oh,
curious what your thoughts are.
did you just give me a compliment?
Nope.
Is it because I'm blindfolded that you gave me the compliment?
The blindfold you're wearing is extremely distracting, but I'd like you to explain why. I mean, how did you hone that?
This is truly it. If you haven't figured out yourself, like if you haven't sat and go like, how did I get to where I am in life? The decisions I made, the jobs I've got, the wife I have. If you don't understand that, then
Mm,
you can never sit in front of anybody else and be interested about them to ask them a question. Most people, there are people that you have hang out with, and they ask you a question, but they don't really want the answer. That's
right.
because they're trying to figure themselves out. If you're good with yourself, you can sit in front of someone else and really want to know about their life, and then you'll be free to ask questions. That's the truth.
This isn't part of the quote, but I think that applies to relationships and just overall happiness in life. Like if I just got this one, if I started dating this one person, or if I got married, if I go with this one job, or I hit this milestone, I'll be happy. And that's never the answer. I think it's looking into yourself. I think my challenge to anyone that's listening to this is figure out what you're an expert at and what you can concisely explain, because a lot of people don't even think about that. And I think a lot of people are experts at things, but never try to boil it down.
I feel like I'm an expert at Albert Einstein because I did this all blindfolded.
Maybe. If you guys have a post you'd like to further explore, please reach out. Larry is trying to show me a sign, but he's blindfolded. You can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok. I'm Andrew Keller for Larry Ilson saying thanks for stopping by.